What many people don't realize is they just imagine this is like somebody in a basement running a simple scam, but that's really not the case. This is criminal organizations that have engineers, developers, they have people that are planning out the entire scam. What we specifically do at Chain Patrol is we help catch these scams as they're running online. We need to catch the scammers, but while not doing any harm to a legitimate business.
They're all about no regulation, decentralized, until something bad happens to them.
Yeah.
And then they cry and say, somebody should have fixed this and prevented this from happening. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. All right. So how are you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Honestly, this is an amazing conference so far.
Yeah. So hi everybody. Welcome to Fraud Boxer. We are at the Safeguard Conference here in Colorado Springs at a wonderful hotel called the Broadmoor. Very nice hotel. We are also live streaming this one here, the behind the scenes recording of this, so people that are watching, they could see, I guess, the magic behind the scenes and see it a little bit before. But your name's Nikita. You are with a company called Chain Patrol.
Yeah.
So tell me all about what Chain Patrol is, and then let's talk about some stuff.
Yeah. So I'm the co-founder, CEO of Chain Patrol. We help stop phishing and impersonation scams. So we actually started off heavily in the crypto space because there was a ton of scams going on in that area. You know, with traditional banks, you know, there's at least some protections in place. There's maybe, you know, you can steal 5,000 at a time, maybe 10,000, depending what your limits are. In crypto, if your money's gone from your wallet, everything can be gone in 1 second immediately.
Yeah. And there really isn't any recourse for people. I know, like, when it comes to like stable coins and stuff, there is, because that's more traditional banks are involved in that. But on crypto, like, it's gone.
Yeah, even with to be honest, even with stable coins, very rarely do those get frozen as well. So in most cases, stable coins or like ETH or any other kind of any other cryptocurrency, once it's gone, it's gone. Like,
Okay.
there has been under like 0.1% recoveries of like everything stolen.
Here's something that maybe, like, I know it's not on our document that we'd used for this. Everything's on the blockchain. So let's say I stole your coins.
Yep.
Like, people are gonna know that it's in this wallet here, and then it's moved to here, then it's moved to here, and it's moved to here.
Yep.
And if there's a cash out event or something like that, won't eventually somebody be able to be caught? Like, if they...
So it depends how you set it up. And so there's a few things, like, one, if you do very obvious moves, then yes, like, you can be tracked down. There's different tracing software for this. There's like TRM, Chainalysis, others. This is what like law enforcement and exchanges use to trace these funds. And sometimes exchanges are able to catch them and freeze them. The challenge is that, one, most attackers, they will start to split up the funds into like a million different directions.
Okay.
They don't just move it all at once. And this is very easy to do on chain. You can suddenly go from like one address to like 10,000 addresses and just send it all in different directions. And now your tracing software has to go through all of these places. And then there's things like mixers, right? There's Tornado Cash. That's like a sanctioned entity now, but people still use it. It basically, a mixer is something that moves the funds in a way, kind of like pools them all together, and you can move them out on the other side. There are certain challenges with it. It's hard to move very large amounts of funds through it, but essentially makes it like nearly like untraceable. And that's even like what's out today. What's being worked on right now in the space is also fully like privacy preserving protocols. This is things like Zcash and like other things.
Okay.
And there you like by the very design, you can't trace the transaction.
So, I mean, we all know where that's going to go, exactly where that's going to go. I mean, it's a cool concept at the end of the day, but there is like, you know, I understand the desire for wanting to be anonymous. I understand that. Just because a problem, which what you first started with, is when people lose their life savings or things like that onto that. So what are some of the things for you, and we'll get into what your company specifically does in this space, but for you, like, what are a couple of things that really keeps you up at night that you're trying, like some stories and stuff that you're trying to solve or trying to fix or trying to prevent even from happening?
Yeah, well, I think it's just that, one, people are being targeted en masse by just, scams, phishing, like elderly are being targeted. Young adults are being targeted with, like the romance scams and
Yep.
all of this kind of stuff. And I was just talking to somebody at a credit union here, and they're actually seeing that, like, the elderly and, like, young men and are being are falling for this just as easily,
Yep.
just because, like, there's also, like, elderly are maybe a little bit more challenged with technology, but the younger kind of adults are they are very lonely.
Yeah.
There's a loneliness.
Yeah, there is, and that's coming out of the pandemic. And one of the things too that I see, I've seen a couple of the reports about that because Gen Z falls for it a lot too. But because we're born and forced into this online era, that there's a lot of trust that they have. Yeah, with whatever comes in their way, there's just an inherent trust. Which, me as a millennial, like an elder millennial, when the internet was starting, it was don't trust anything on there. So I have a little bit of that, but people in our industry that do this every single day, they fall for these things still too. Like I've seen the CEOs of large conferences that do this get scammed before. It happens.
Yeah, I think what many people don't realize is they just imagine this is like somebody in a basement running a simple scam, but that's really not the case. Like, my co-founder Vito actually traveled recently to Cambodia and went to see the scam compounds there.
Did he go there in West by chance?
Not with her. So yeah, we actually want to chat with her as well because she, like, a lot of the work that she's doing with Project Shamrock, Operation Shamrock, and actually we're building out our own documentary on this stuff as well.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of room for collab.
Well, I'll see what I can do. She is a friend of the show. I talked to her a little bit yesterday.
Amazing,
I'll see what I can do for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, what I wanted to say there is that there's a giant operation happening over there. This is criminal organizations that have engineers, developers. They have, like, people that are planning out the entire scam. They're creating spear phishing campaigns towards you. And also with AI now, the attacks that were before reserved for, like, it takes some effort. So you would reserve it for, like a very, like, high, like a very specific target, maybe like the engineer with, like, that has access to API keys at a major company. But now with AI, you can get that sophisticated attack targeting everybody. And that's what no one's ready for that right now.
Yeah, because, the Incognia, that's the sponsor of this particular episode here, they are real big on the device farms and what people are doing and how with the AI, you could spin up 100,000 devices with, like, just cloning and wiping, like, all day long. So it always looks like a new device and doing all sorts of things, not even like financial scams, like in this sense, but just like abuse and like taking, like, coupon codes and vouchers and all of these things that are meant to be for, like, new customers and ripping them that way. It's just the barrier of entry with the AI and what AI can do is lowered the bar so much that just about anybody can do it.
Yep.
And those, to your point on those Cambodian and like other countries that are having these big farms, these compounds are huge. They are trafficking women.
Yep.
And putting them into those compounds. So even though, like, we always say, oh, it's just a fake photo, or it's going to be like a deep fake overlay, sometimes it's not.
It's a real person.
It's the real woman, and she's told what to say. She's got put her on a little apartment and all of that. And there's a couple of companies that have done little mini documentaries on that, and that's super, super interesting and super sad. Like, you don't realize how big this really is.
Yeah.
Like, some people just think that the grandparents are getting scammed out of their retirement account when there's a whole other element.
There's people being trafficked, and we interviewed some of the actually victims that escaped. These were a lot of men that were trafficked from Nigeria and brought over. So they're brought over into Thailand, and then from Thailand they're brought across the border into, like, Myanmar and, like, other and other areas. And they're beaten. They if they don't do well or they don't want to work, they're beaten.
So are they targeting, like, a certain type of person from Nigeria? Like, are they looking for people that already have, like, engineers, or are they just getting anybody?
So these were not engineers. These are just, like, regular people. Like, typically what they do is they post, like, job scams. They say, like, hey, there's a job opening in Thailand. You're gonna get paid great compared to what they're earning over there. This is amazing. They're, like, really excited about the opportunity because this is a way for them to provide for their family, right? They travel there. Sometimes they have their documents with them, sometimes they don't, but they're promising, somebody over there will help support them. And one of the actually they usually have their documents coming in, but one of the first things that happens to them and is their documents are taken away. You know, they're told like, hey, like we need to like go process this for, you know, some legal reason, and then you know they never get their documents back, and then they're transported across the border.
Wow. So when does your guys' documentary come out on this?
So it's TBD the date. We're doing some final polish. We want to work with we want to make a little bit of PR around this, but maybe in the coming months we're gonna see the exact.
How long is it?
It's about an hour. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
like 45 minutes. 45 minutes.
I had no idea you guys did that coming into this.
Yeah.
Wow. So what are you guys doing that could help in that area outside of going and helping people get out of it?
Yeah. So what we specifically do at Chain Patrol is we help catch these scams as they're running online. Like we're focused on a specific area of legitimate brands being impersonated. So we work with companies like Coinbase, for example, or some fintechs, or some you know, banks and others. Like all these different companies, they have a challenge of you know, you can impersonate a large brand, you know, and then you go out to their customers and then you just impersonate them, and you know, you get a fake support article or a fake domain, a fake somebody on social media. You enter into a Facebook group and there's somebody helping you out with like financial advice, or maybe you're having trouble with your account. One actually very important thing: never post on social media that you're having trouble with like any kind of bank account, fintech
Do people
account.
do that? I mean,
yeah, people post. What they do is they'll tag. For example, we see this on X or Twitter a lot. Is somebody goes and they just like tag like you know, Coinbase or somebody else, and they're like, hey, I'm having trouble with this, can you help? Because they think
that
that's
makes
a support
sense, like
channel.
Support. Yeah.
But then the immediate thing they get is someone malicious directing them to like a fake email or something
Especially
else.
now that anybody can have a check mark
Exactly,
on there.
yeah.
So.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because you know, on my day job, we have brand reputation management that we do, and that's mostly on our side. Is a little less serious, but it's more like stopping affiliate abuse. People spin up fake affiliate links to, like, one guy, we just had one, he's had like 1,000 links, domains that he bought. And like when you click it, it just would redirect through with his affiliate link, which is, you know, it is what it is. It's not encouraged behavior, but then also people setting up fake Instagrams, trying to do their rewards codes, things like that. So it's not super serious, you know, but I could see a lot more people like
it really depends
fake
on the type.
websites completely, you know?
There's completely fake websites. They use them for account takeovers. Sometimes they don't even target like getting into your specific account, but getting into just other accounts that you may have, just getting malware on your device and then capturing everything. So it's like, even though they're targeting one brand, they're actually just targeting, you know, attacking the user as a whole. So that's some of the stuff that we see. And so what we do to proactively help against, we really scan the entire internet. It's like a lot of like scanning all domains that go live daily, lots of image recognition, lots of like fingerprinting for malware, scanning across different socials, and then getting this stuff taken down. So we work with a lot of like other security companies as well. We want to share this data out. So like if, you know, anybody working like watching this as, you know, has like a I don't know, like antivirus they're running or company or something else, we love to share this data out there. We have tons of data of the malicious domains, malicious social media accounts. We share this to places like Google Safe Browsing, for example. When they get it, they put a warning inside Chrome directly. So anybody with a Chrome browser clicking that link.
So that's you guys doing helping do that stuff, huh?
Yeah. We're not the only ones. It's not like some sort of exclusive thing. They have like a process. They work with other like brand protection companies. They work with some other security vendors too. But we send them a ton of that data, and it's also very accurate data. They actually have an interesting thing they have their own like scanning engine there, where it's like you have to send it to them, but they have to verify it first, right? Because they don't want to have a false positive.
That makes sense. Because I could be angry at a competitor's website and tag them and then send them that data.
And that's a big part of this business, is just being very, very accurate. And you know, you need to catch the scammers, but while not doing any harm to a legitimate business. And so you have to be careful in how you like evaluate potential scams, potential fake websites, and this kind of stuff.
Jordan jumping in here real quick to talk about today's sponsor. Remember when we used to use IP for just about everything? That's kind of how we figured out where people were. Then VPNs came along and kind of screwed that whole thing up for us. Of course, on mobile, it's a different story. On mobile, fraud teams have GPS coordinates, Wi-Fi signals, cell network data, multiple signals painting a clear picture of where the device actually is. But on web, we get an IP address. And as we all learned, IP address can be masked, reassigned, or even shared by thousands of users at once. So a login from an unexpected region looks identical to a normal one. Geographic compliance checks are basically a best guess. Incognia's verified IP location changes that. Incognia has a global network of mobile devices, real devices in real locations. Those devices are constantly connected to the internet, and Incognia sees exactly which IPs they're on. So when that same IP shows up in a web session, Incognia already knows where it's coming from. Not from a database, from actually seeing it in the real world. What does that mean? That means fraud teams finally have a web location signal worth acting on. Scan the QR code below to learn more about Incognia's verified IP location. Now let's get back to the episode.
Wow. So have you guys always done that, or did it like evolve into that sort of thing?
That's been mostly it. So we started with websites. So now we're like across many industries, and we moved more into like social protection and this kind of stuff. We started off literally with just websites because in crypto there's there's wallet drainers. So wallet drainers, they, if you have like a MetaMask or a Phantom or some other wallet, there's these sites where like, you go, they clone a legitimate like crypto company. You go there, it asks you for a transaction, and then it just steals all the money. It just steals all the money out of your wallet. Like everything is gone. And so, before I even knew brand protection existed, we were in crypto, and like every major company was getting hit by this, like en masse, like hundreds to thousands of fake sites a day popping up for them. And so it was insanity.
So much. And it used to be you had to do that like a little bit more by hand. Now you can AI up a website real quick.
Exactly.
And do it.
Yeah. That's the thing. So there's like the AI websites. There's also the scam kits. Scam kits is actually something interesting.
Tell me all about these, please.
Yeah, because don't do this at home. But,
Oh, no.
but you could go and download a scam kit that is literally, they pre-build everything for you. It's like a software you put on your computer. It has like hundreds or thousands of sites pre-built. You kind of just can pick which brand you want to target. You just hook it up to like whatever hosting you want. Like there's like a tiny bit of things you need to do, but you don't need to be a technical person to do this. That's really the big thing.
Okay.
And then
Taking notes.
yeah. And then you just you activate it, you run the scam. Anything, it starts spinning up websites for you. It starts, it already has like templates of brands that were copied. And then you can just start sharing them on Twitter, elsewhere, on X, on
just hope that people click.
Hope that people click. Some of them some people also, what they do, for example, is they go to a legitimate company's like X profile, and every time they post in the replies, and they have the same logo and a similar name.
So it looks like
just a thread or a continuation of the thread. People don't realize it's like a different account posting. So that's one way you can email people, and some of these scam kits have this already pre-built into them, so you don't even need to like understand how to do that. And then the really interesting thing is, if you scam somebody and you steal some money from them, you get to keep 80%, 20% gets auto-routed to the developer.
So they're doing all the work already.
Yeah. So and it makes it also hard to prosecute the developers of the scam kits, because technically they just wrote software, right? They did not do the theft themselves. They just wrote software. And so in many jurisdictions, that makes them much more protected.
Yeah, they're trying to do that stuff like like with the social media stuff they're trying to do in the US, where they're going to hold social media companies like liable for people that commit suicide and bullying and things like that. Like I could see where they're trying to go with that. Like I think that like there needs to be accountability to these sites to do more. Yeah. However, I also am of the thing, like what people do with what you build is kind of like not always your fault. It's your fault to do an iteration and correct that behavior. But look, if someone wants to go post a couple crypto links and then it's still $1 billion, and then I get 20% of that just because that's how much my software costs, I'm kind of in the middle of that,
No, it's a very complicated topic, because that's we were talking about Tornado Cash earlier, the mixer,
sanctioned one,
the sanctioned one. The person that wrote it went to jail for a very long time. They just were recently, I think, released. Okay. But I think it was like many years. I don't remember the exact details.
You remember like Silk Road though? Like, well, he got pardoned. He's out. But like, he built a thing, and he didn't know people were going to sell heroin on it. But he didn't stop people from selling heroin.
The tricky thing too, when you put it into a contract on the blockchain.
Yeah. Okay.
Typically, if you write the code and you put it there, many people write it oftentimes in an immutable way, meaning you can't change it once it's there.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a decentralized system. So once you've written the code and you've deployed it, you can't do anything about it anymore. So how people choose to use it.
So you couldn't fix it. You couldn't stop somebody from selling heroin if they
Once it's on the blockchain,
Yeah.
if you have still, there's a kind of like this thing of like, some people deploy it in a way where they have no controls. Some people deploy it in a way where they have private keys and other things that are able to change parameters or even shut down the whole protocol. But then many other people don't want to use that because they see it as like a centralization risk of somebody can just go and shut the whole thing down,
Yeah.
or they can go and like change how certain maybe like financial mechanisms work, because there's like lending protocols where you can lend money between people, right? And if somebody has the ability to suddenly change like the liquidation preferences or something else on the like,
Yeah.
can change some of the financial mechanisms on there, it becomes people don't want to use it because they're like, well, if I'm going to put like 10 million in this, but there's somebody that can just flip a switch and change how this thing works,
Yeah.
I'm not going to use it.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
So
I had no idea about this.
yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens in the world of like what's known as like DeFi, decentralized finance.
Yeah.
And in many ways, that's why a lot of people are interested in using it, because it's transparent and it's in most cases immutable, which means it won't, like, it eliminates a certain area of risk, but it adds other risk. For example, hacks. There's been major hacks. Maybe we could talk about hacks
Sure.
a little bit. There's some interesting ones. And then there's the area of anybody can use it for anything. You can't, like, if Vanguard wants to use this thing, but also a drug lord wants to use this
Yeah.
thing, they're both gonna be in there in the same pool of money, and it's gonna be tricky.
That's fascinating. I actually had no idea. Don't talk to me about hacking now.
Yeah. Well, I think this is there's this whole area. There's different ways that hacks happen in the space, and so one, there's just bugs, right? There's bugs in these smart contracts, and it's kind of like if your back end at like a bank got hacked or something similar. But here it's even more dangerous because all this code is public on the blockchain. So if there's a bug, somebody can find it. It's not like there's no layer of obscure, like security by
Yeah.
obscurity. It's on the chain, so that means it's all public. So people put a lot of work into making sure there's no ability to there's no, like, it's entirely bug free,
Yeah.
right? And that's like a big thing to say, right? Entirely bug free. Very rarely is code entirely bug free. And so hacks can happen by just exploiting bugs in the code that, maybe the way certain like numbers are calculated together, and there's like an integer overflow, and then you're able to steal funds there. But now, but many contracts are not built entirely in an immutable way. They're like upgradable because these companies are iterating on them, and they're making changes. But to upgrade a contract now, like how we're talking about, somebody has a key, or the company has a key to deploy changes to this contract.
Yeah.
Now what we're seeing more and more is the organizations themselves getting targeted to steal those.
The ones that
private-
have the keys.
Yeah,
to
that
try
have the
and get
keys to make upgrades to the contract. And so this is where like phishing comes in. This is where like internal compromise comes in, account takeovers come in. And there's kind of like an interesting case I wanted to bring up. I think this is not just the biggest crypto hack. I think this is the biggest hack ever. Where this happened with a company called Bybit.
Okay.
So Bybit, major crypto, like huge crypto exchange. And so over 2 billion was stolen. And what happened is the hackers were able to compromise the signers. So there's a thing called a multi-sig. It's basically like multiple people have to sign a transaction to approve something to happen. In this case, a large movement of funds. And then so because the organization still needs to sometimes have a way to, like, we need to move $100 million somewhere, and they need to have a way to move the funds. And so they use what's called a multi-sig. And so usually, like, maybe their CFO will have one,
Yeah.
a piece of the.
I mean, we have the regular approvals. We've been doing that for years, and
Exactly.
regular, traditional.
Exactly, yeah. So it's very familiar to. It's exactly like in traditional finance, right? There, it's just like a mechanism on chain, and they have like specific, usually software they use. And in this case, they were using a thing called Safe. Safe is I think the most popular provider of like a multi-sig wallet and UI.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and so what the hackers did was they compromised the developer. They managed to phish them. I think it was through like a fake interview, and this is something that's we can talk about more, but a lot of devs are being targeted by these like fake recruiters, fake interviews, because usually they're used to the fact that like, oh, like you get a GitHub repo, you need to run some code on your device, and it's like a normal thing for most people.
Yep, absolutely.
And so now what these attackers do is they just say, hey, like, we can just get them to run arbitrary code off GitHub. Great. Like I'm going to get them into an interview. They're all excited. They think they're going to work at this company. And actually they're executing malware on their device.
Right on their local machine. Right
Yeah,
there,
yeah, exactly.
Which then is inside the firewall at work. And
yeah, and that's the other problem is many people use their work laptops for these interviews, right?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to, but they still
They
do
do.
it. And just because like devs, oftentimes they like their company device kind of becomes their main device, like especially if they haven't upgraded in a while, they might not even have another laptop or something else. One day you run an interview, they're just like, okay, well this is my good machine, I'll use my nice latest MacBook for this because it's going to run faster, the camera's going to be nice, all this other stuff, right? And that's how the attackers get in. And so I won't run too much further on this, but it's just like the main thing is just like they compromised the dev, they were able to push some bad code up to the front end. So not even like they didn't compromise like there was more security mechanisms
because that's where
the
people
on-chain
are
stuff.
monitoring that sort of stuff more.
Yeah. So like the backend and the infrastructure stuff, they weren't able to really touch, but the front end they were able to change, and they injected some code into the front end. That what it did was when the signers from Bybit went to sign a transaction, the UI would show them something different from what they were actually signing.
Okay.
Right? So they thought they were doing one type of transaction, but it was literally targeted to only their specific wallet. So even though they compromised the system, that could have been targeting like, hundreds of companies out there. They were very patient. They were like, this is not to just go and like smash and grab, and like they were in there for quite a while waiting for a larger transaction to happen, and they proposed this they actually proposed the signing transaction to the signers at Bybit, and to them they were like, oh, this is some routine transaction, we just need to update some like small part of the code or move like a small amount of funds they use, and instead like 2 billion was stolen.
Are those guys gone in the wind?
So the hackers have gotten away with a large portion. Some funds were were frozen. But again, in crypto, it's very, very difficult. And I think now more companies are starting to look at what we should do about this because, but there were many protocols where the hackers immediately went from like exchange to like a bunch of decentralized protocols, and there were a bunch that just kind of let them move the money through it. Some others did some work to freeze it, but again, they split it in like 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, that's where my mind was going, is what we talked about earlier. But it's so funny because like all the crypto bros, which they'll definitely ratio the shit out of this episode, because anytime I talk crypto, it gets downvoted to hell. It's just what happens. They don't like their stuff being talked about. It's just what happens. But they're all about no regulation, decentralized, until something bad happens to them.
Yeah.
And then they cry and say, somebody should have fixed this and prevented this from happening. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want your wallets protected, you're going to have to put these sort of protections and these things in, which then comes all the way back around to basically where we were when we started, what crypto was meant to solve.
Yeah. That's there's two very major, I think, big camps in crypto right now. There's the kind of traditional grassroots kind of movement and like the kind of cypherpunk kind of ideals of like, we need full privacy, we need like people should be able to do what they want. And there is a lot of importance pieces to that too. The main challenges is like, you don't want to be in like a full like surveillance state situation where everything you do is monitored and scrutinized and controlled by like one centralized entity. But then, what do you do when 2 billion gets stolen? And what do you do about that? And so there's a lot of debates right now. I think the thing is, there's this interesting case where there are companies that are not fully decentralized, but they also refuse to freeze funds. I think those companies especially need to like pick a lane, It's
They're trying to play both sides.
yeah, because if you do have, there's many companies now that have like what's called like a security council. It's like they might have like a big protocol, but they have like 10 to 12 people, and they're like very selectively like picked from around the world. They're usually like security researchers and others. And if like a group of them all vote together, they're able to like either pause the protocol from me having any interactions. They can freeze funds in the protocol. And they're usually picked to be like they're voted on by other people, and like it's like an election almost, like you know, of like it's a very good flow. They try to be very
Diplomatic.
careful, well, diplomatic, no, but very careful in when they actually choose to exercise their power, is what I mean. They try to be like as like hands off as possible unless something really really bad happens. And there've been cases like there was another like 200 million hack recently, and like a number of protocols actually chose to freeze funds, and actually I think it was something over like 60 to 100 million was like frozen and recovered. So like not better, you know, better.
Yeah, but still somebody got away with 120 million dollars.
Yeah,
Like it's free and clear essentially, you know.
But it's much better than what happened in previous cases. So there is movement in that direction. I think companies are realizing like for the rest of the world to come in and use these crypto rails, there needs to be like certain protections in place. Otherwise, you'll get this case of like, you know, what other fintechs and banks are doing is they're just building their own chains that are fully regulated, fully controlled.
Yeah, we even saw that same thing with like the faster payments stuff when that came out on the regular fiat currency. Is like the idea was instant payments all day long, you know, and 24 hours, 24/7 instant payments, and then people started getting ripped, and everybody knows Zelle. Zelle uses RTP, and then everybody said, okay, we need protections, and then they went to the government, and the government did the wonderful things that they always do and made everything better. And force the banks to have liability on that. And then now when you try and send a Zelle payment, it takes 3 days sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is right. We're right back to where we were before.
Yeah. That's I think the thing that I would like, my main message to like the crypto industry, I guess, from what I've been seeing is that like, let's be proactive and let's improve things before regulators do it for us.
Yeah, because as soon as like it starts getting, as soon as the government starts talking about it, like then it's all over. And like, you know, you're seeing some governments, even the U.S. government did a little bit about it, you know, but
yeah, I would say a lot's improving. A lot, like even compared to 2-3 years ago, a lot has improved. There's a ton more security in place across like every area of the stack. And what most companies are realizing now is they actually did a lot. Like the smart contract compromises are now quite rare. This was like a big deal 3 years ago. Now everybody has very deep audits, very deep protection at the chain level. But now all the traditional cybersecurity stuff is becoming a problem again. It's basically like the phishing, account compromises, you know, like mostly this area of things like targeting them, because like part of it is on chain, but their company still lives on like GitHub. It still lives on, you know,
that is true, because you kind of have to have a foot in both worlds in order to do it. Like, because the what powers it needs to still be built traditionally.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the compromises are happening now. And so I think right now also, if you're like a traditional cyber fraud person, like it's actually a good time to go and like, you know, find a crypto company that needs your help, because a lot of them are realizing, wait a second, like we need all of the traditional support, you know, like all the like they didn't build something completely new. They just took what's old and built a layer on top. It's not like something completely different in terms of like the cyber and the fraud landscape.
But when I'm doing those interviews at the new crypto company, I have to be careful to make sure that they're not asking me to run code on my local machine.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're here at Safeguard as we wrap up this thing. You having a good time here in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, honestly, it's been amazing. Like,
have you done any excursions?
A little bit. I actually, I was gonna do one yesterday. It started raining a little bit, so.
Yeah. Which one were you supposed to do?
There's like some axe throwing and some other stuff. I was excited, you know, but other than that, honestly, like incredible. Like it's beautiful.
It's a really
like
good
the
event.
window behind you. I'm like,
the clouds coming in. It's gonna be 7 inches of snow tomorrow. Right. Of course, when I go golfing tomorrow.
This is nice.
Looking forward to that.
I'm flying out, so I'm missing that.
So you flying out tonight?
Tomorrow, but. Yeah, I'll be.
Also, didn't know there was an airport in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I went to Denver and had to shuttle down.
Yeah.
It was.
I didn't expect a $300 and some Uber ride down here, but here we are. That's life these days. Okay, so as we wrap up, with you specifically in your company, looking forward into the future, let's give me 3 things that you think your company needs to be helping to solve. Like 3 specific things.
I think one is just the rise of like spear phishing with AI, it's a very major problem.
Yeah.
All
Humans are always the weakest link in all of these stories that you've told.
Yeah.
The human has been the weakest link in all of it, every single time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the main issue is you can't before you can people are like, oh, I'm not gonna fall for a scam. They're so obvious, now the scams you can't eyeball them anymore. And a lot of traditional systems have also been built to basically just be an advanced version of like eyeballing essentially, and now it's you really need to gather a ton of data on every site, on every social media profile, link a bunch of these pieces together to really determine, is this real or is this fake? And so my goal is to create kind of this protection layer between as many people out in the world as possible and the scammer. So if there's a scammer coming in, Chain Patrol stands between the scammer and the end person.
Yeah.
That's really my main goal. Because there's antiviruses, there's other things out there, but people are still getting phished en masse, both from...
Well, people are terrible with their antiviruses.
That's the thing. People don't like update their antiviruses, don't install them at all anymore. That's the other like interesting thing is like, how do we, like, this is why like we've been thinking of releasing something to like, like our own app or something people can install. But then my question is like, will they even install it? Like,
good point.
They don't have antivirus. Well, many don't have antiviruses anymore. So it's why like, so we're trying to do a little bit of like partnering with different companies, exactly like Google Safe Browsing. Like, if we can get our data into Chrome, well, everybody, like most people have Chrome. If we can get our data onto like Android and iPhone devices, then now like finding other ways of distributing this kind of like security network that, I don't think the solution is honestly like educating people.
A couple of years ago, we tried to do the big thing. It's like education's everything. But then what happened is like Capital One just would send an email, beware scams, and then would just like say, okay, we educated people, and then it still happens to them every day.
It still happens, and now the scammers actually using the fear. They actually will reach out to and be like, hey, your account's compromised. You need to do something different. You need to like move your funds, and then that is the scam. So the education itself becomes a vector of attack in some ways.
Wow. That is, I never thought of it like that, but that is frightening.
Yeah. And so, I think the biggest thing I'm just thinking about is how do we catch the scammers no matter where they are, build a system that adapts to them quickly, because whatever we built last week is outdated this week. It's like they always change their strategies. You have to build a very flexible engine for this.
Yeah.
And then when we do find them, how do we make that not just like, okay, well, we have some data, but like we actually get that out to as many people out in the world as possible, that it reaches them before the scam has the impact. So that's our our main focus.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving me time at 9 a.m. During the conference here before the snow hits. Tell the people into this camera right here how they can find you, where they can go, how they can get started, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Like, so you can check us out, chainpatrol.com, Chain Patrol on like X, LinkedIn, other platforms. We also run our own podcast as well.
Love
We're talking
that.
about more...
I'm coming on it.
Yeah. No, we definitely should have you on. So you can check us out there. Also, if you see scams, you can just report them. chainpatrol.com/report.
Love that.
We've taken tons of public reports. We're actually working on a mechanism to even start rewarding people for reporting
Love that.
scams.
They're gonna love that. That's how you get it coming in.
Yeah. So send us reports. And if you're a brand that needs protection, you can just sign up on our website as well.
Deal. So I will have QR codes that will be on the screen while you were talking right there. I will have links to you guys in the description. I will have links to the reporting thing in the description. Probably a QR code will probably be on the screen when that happens too. I'm using an editor now, so he gets to do that. Hi, John. But everybody, we'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching the episode. Earlier, we talked about why IP location on the web has always been a weak signal. Here's the deal. If your platform is using IP to make any fraud decisions on web sessions, whether that be logins, transactions, onboarding, this is directly relevant to you. The signal you're relying on has real limitations, and now there's a better option. If you're dealing with ATOs, fraudsters hiding behind VPNs, or users accessing your platform in regions where compliance doesn't allow it, this could genuinely change what's possible for your team. Incognia built a better way to take the same IP address and turn it into something you can confidently act on, built from real device behavior, not database records. So if any of that sounds familiar to you, what's stopping you from learning more? Scan the QR code on the screen below to find out more about Incognia's verified IP location. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.